Hello team. Today I'm going to show you how to get access to the Employee Hub. Make sure you can access everything through Workday and all the other services you need for a typical day of work in the STEM-LC. So from the STEM-LC homepage, click on the Employee Hub. Now this is going to ask you to log into Canvas. If you're not logged into Canvas, make sure you complete everything you need to in order to do that. Now this may require you to verify with Okta. Some of you have an app that does that. You may have to have your phone handy, so make sure you're ready for that. So once you get inside the Employee Hub, you're going to notice brief little announcements that might clue you into anything that might be coming up for that week. Right underneath that is going to be the STEM-LC events calendar. Again, on here what you're going to see is something that's completely up to date. It'll tell you when the deadlines are that are coming up shortly. If we do have STEM-LC events that are happening, perhaps a speaker is coming in, a First Fridays event, you'll see those on there as well. On the agenda button you can change to remove certain pieces if it feels a little bit too cluttered to you. And you can also move this into a month view if you prefer that. Beneath that you're going to notice 6 buttons, and these are the buttons you'll most typically use during your time here in the STEM-LC. We have our work schedule button, which is SARS. That's where we record our interactions with students, kind of track to get data. And we also have your schedule and which hours you work and which campuses you work. We also have a button here for entering time in Workday, a button for your work email. So typically when a tutor starts their shift, they will click on the SARS button, the Workday button, and the work email button. And that way at the end of their shift, they can enter the time in Workday. They make sure they're not missing anything with their work email, and they make sure they track all their interactions as well. So those are the top 3 buttons. Underneath you'll notice buttons, again, not as frequent. The training button tends to be used near the beginning of the term. There might be a few little trainings throughout the term, but for the most part, again, it's something that's done primarily at the beginning of the term. After that, last minute absence is something came up, it's within that time period, please click this and follow the process that we have in place. And then lastly, request a day off when you have kind of a little bit more time planning. You kind of know it's coming up, maybe it's next month, something like that. You can request a day off in the future. And you're able to check underneath as you scroll down more for any available shifts. If you're looking to pick up a shift, this is the place you can go to say, ooh, I could take that shift and get a few more hours. Sometimes students and tutors really like to get a few more hours, get a little bit of a boost to that paycheck. Okay. There's a process there. There's a few other links down here at the bottom that you might find helpful. The employee manual link, the FAQs, a tutor folder, and Zoom account access. So anyway, those things are there just in case you need them. Let's jump back up now, and we're going to jump into Workday today. Let's take a look at Workday. So a couple pieces to be aware of. What you'll notice on the left are any announcements from the district, and on the right are what are called worklets. And so there's a pay worklet, there's a time worklet, and there's a few others that you may use. I probably have more of these than most of you just because of my position. So again, let's take a look at a few options here. I'm going to go ahead and click on the time worklet. Again, we have separate videos to enter your time. So click on the time worklet and then enter your time on the particular day corresponding to the hours that you worked. Now there's one other piece I want to show you about the time worklet. When you click on it, on the right hand side, you can view your time off balances. And the reason this is helpful is it can kind of show you how much possible HF or sick leave you might have. So again, HF is used if you or a family member are sick and you have to take care of them. So you accrue this over time. 30 hours of work gives you 1 hour of Healthy Families leave. Check the Employee Expectation Manual for additional information, and as always, bring any questions to Amy or Scott. Now let's go back to the main page. You see this MiraCoast logo at the top. Anytime you click on it, it does bring you back to the main screen. And we've shown you the time worklet. Once you start getting paid, you might want to click on the pay worklet as well. Now down at the bottom of the pay worklet shows all of your pay slips. And MiraCoast College pays at the end of a particular month, but it's not the month that you just finished working. So for example, the pay that you would be getting paid for May would be the work that you did in the month of April. So when you finish April and you submit for that month, payroll will process it and they will pay you at the end of the next month. and we are paid at MiraCosta only one time per month. So, as you take a look, you can kind of see all of the pay slips that are there. You can click on each one of them if you'd like. It's also a chance for you to change any withholdings or any other additional information related to taxes. So, we've seen the time worklet, we've seen the pay worklet. Up in the top, you'll also see an inbox option, and that's where notices are there for you when you have to do something, and there's a notification option next to it that just provides you with the idea that, hey, something is there for me to read, but I may not have to do anything about it. Let's click on notifications. So for example, some of the notifications that you have, you notice it says I have 30 of them. If I zoom in, it looks like an expense report. So I'm being reimbursed, and that's great. I will click the little button here that says mark read, and once I click it, then the number of notifications goes down. If you have something in your inbox, and let's see here, Rachel's going to demonstrate it here. If you've submitted time and if something is incorrect or doesn't match, we will leave a comment for you. And what you to do is go to your inbox, scroll down, and you will see the comment from the timekeeper, who is Amy Powpow. And she'll leave you a note. Hey, your hours didn't match on SARS. Please check your hours on SARS and then resubmit. And so that gives you a chance to go back and say, ooh, I actually have to go change something. And once you make the change, you add a comment, because again, you're resubmitting, and that way we know that you've done what you need to do, and then you can submit. Again, we submit once per week. We don't submit every day, but we enter every day. Under personal information, this is a chance for you to view your contact information, make sure your email address is correct, as well as any emergency contacts. This really needs to be updated and be correct. That way, if there's any problem with your payroll, especially after you leave MiraCosta, we want to make sure that you get paid. Those are the main pieces. There is one more piece in the top right. If you click on your picture, or maybe your initials there, you can view your profile. Your profile will show you different jobs that you might hold on campus, including the main job that you have. Now, if you do have multiple jobs on campus, there's an arrow on the left-hand side right under your name. And this little kind of two-way arrow, when you click on it, it shows all of your different positions on campus. Each one of them will have a different number, so make sure you enter your time correctly. For the STEM Learning Centers, you want to make sure you're not entering time for another location on campus. Okay. Each one has a separate P number, and the P number corresponds to a specific position. And lastly, if you choose My Account under that profile, there are preferences that you have the ability to change. Now this tells you where you're located, so it can help with when you get notifications, but there's a lot of other details about what do I want to be notified about. And so I'm not going to scroll through all of these, there's a lot of them, but you're welcome to look through and change any preferences that you see might be important. So don't forget, we enter our time daily, we submit our time once a week on our last day of the week, at the absolute latest on Sunday, which is when the work week ends. All right, this should give you a nice overview.
Thank you, Scott, and hello, this is Amy, and we are back on the STEMLC Employee Hub page so we can jump into SARS Anywhere for a tour and some tips. By selecting the Work Schedule SARS button, it should take you right there, but if you do ever end up on the Okta page, you'll want to be sure to select the SARS Anywhere STEMLC tile because you don't have access to these other SARS systems. In SARS, the first thing you want to be aware of are these three tabs here across the top. This is where you'll want to make your first selection. My Grid will show your work schedule one day at a time. The Grid will show your work schedule over multiple dates. And the Drop-In tab will not show any work schedule information, but it is where you will log all drop-in and appointment sessions with students. Once you've selected the appropriate tab, then you'll need to go up to the top drop-down menu to select the correct location. For the Drop-In tab, you will select the location specific to the work site that you are currently working at to track interactions. For your work schedule using The Grid and My Grid, there is only one location, STEMLC Schedule. Let's start with My Grid, and our next selection to make is the date. SARS highlights Today in yellow, or you can use the Today button. Keep in mind that you will only have columns to look at for the days you are scheduled to work. So for whatever date you choose, it will go to your next scheduled working day from there. I'm selecting today, and then I click off the drop-down menu to complete my selection. And as you can see at the top, it moved me to August 22nd, because that is my next working day. My grid shows your work schedule one day at a time. There is a code column where you will see schedule codes. Notice that the codes include location information. In this example, OCM for Oceanside tells you which site you are scheduled to work at and indicates your scheduled work time. For example, this shift is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Oceanside campus for math drop-ins. If you need to interpret these codes, there's a description column on the right-hand side. And as an example of a previous day, more information may be available in the middle of the page. Remember that any student information that you see is confidential, and you'll need to scroll up and down to see the full day. If you double-click on an appointment or session and have an alert pop open, like this, you will want to make sure that you just close it by clicking Close or the X. Do not ever delete alerts. We use these for scheduling. Something else to note in SARS is the header columns are movable. So if you wanted to make a column wider or narrower, you could move it around by grabbing onto the divider and pulling it in that direction. There is a Previous button at the bottom left and a Next button at the bottom right that will take you one day at a time through your working schedule. Now let's look at the grid with multiple dates to view. You can see the dates at the top of the columns here. And again, you can scroll up and down on the page to see your schedule. Here's some other examples of location and shift information. And let's move along to the drop-in tab so I can track my interactions during my shift. I'm currently working at the San Elijo campus, so I'm going to change my location to pick the San Elijo SARS location. Clicking off the menu, and it automatically takes me to the current day. You can see a red number 1 here indicating there is one student waiting. The drop-in locations have 3 bottom tabs. The Waiting tab will show all students who are currently waiting. This is the tab that you'll use if a coach assigns you to work with a student. After confirming the student's information matches who you'll be working with, you can double-click to open it up. It defaults to your name, and then you select OK to assign them to you. Then if you click on the Only My Students tab, this will show you only the students you've worked with for that day. You will use this tab to find your student again, and to come to the bottom to start your session timer. Once you start your timer, you'll notice this timer icon appears in the column. When your session has completed and you stop the timer icon will disappear. The Show All tab will let you see all students who've come into the center for the day. I'm going to adjust the column width a little bit so that I can see the full preferred name of the student that is noted in quotation marks. Let's switch to a different location so I can demonstrate that some of these columns are sortable. So you could click on the top column header to sort the information in the way that works best for you. If you find yourself in an open window where there's a Restore option, do not ever use Restore. We will lose previous data, so you will want to click Close and ask a coach for assistance so we can get the student assigned to you correctly. Another tip when working with SARS is that it does auto-refresh, but it will also time you out after non-use. So if you're looking at something that just doesn't look right or information is not displaying correctly, you would always want to refresh your browser window and it will make you sign back in if you did get kicked out. There is a refresh button here, but that simply refreshes the window that you're looking at. It is not a full refresh. You'll want to select the full browser refresh button or hit F5. Another option is to go into your browser's security settings and clear your browser cache. Please always be sure to reach out if you have questions so that we can help guide you with what you're looking at, or correct the information if we put something in incorrectly. Thank you for joining our tour. And back to you, Scott.
Please bring back any questions if you have them, and we'll see you soon. Off you go.